So what are some things that you implemented in Cleveland that other cities should take note of?
Well, first of all, I try hard not to compare Cleveland to other cities or be arrogant enough to believe that I can tell another mayor what to do, because I don't know what their situation politically and otherwise. There are some things that we share in common as urban centers. And again, I pointed them out a little earlier. But one of the things that we attempt to do to address education is we did our education reform, where as a community we got together, Democrats, Republicans, business, labor, philanthropic, and we came together and we developed a reform plan for education. And as a result of that, we've made significant strides in urban education here in Cleveland, but we haven't gotten to where we should be. Example, we've gone from probably 50% graduation rate up to maybe, I think, in the mid-70s. Now that's nice, but that's not where it should be, right? There's significant improvement, not where it should be. We also have a better, with that graduation rate, have more of our kids going to college. We just became part of the Say Yes program that provides scholarships for all of our students who graduate from our school district, and they're raising about $120 million is the goal to raise for that. And it's also designed primarily to look at children who are not doing well in education and finding out why. And it may be that they got an IEP, independent individual educational plan, that makes them like a slow learner, but that's not their issue. The issue may be these other things and obstacles and barriers that are going on with them and their family and their community. And so it's this wraparound service to try to help them over those humps. So that's an education. Other things that we're doing that is a real issue in urban centers is around crime, and particularly violent crime with young people and the use of guns. So we've put together initiatives that attempt to have a better relationship between the police officers and the community. We've done a huge recruitment program so that we can get people to be police officers who look like the people they're supposed to serve. And then not only look like them, but have an urban experience, because even if, say for instance, you're serving a black community and you're a black police officer, but you don't have an urban experience, all you know is suburban life, where you still don't have that, something's missing there. Or you could have a white officer serving a black community with an urban experience, and they understand the urban culture, the way it talks, the way it walks, and things like that. And so you get a better outcome. So we want people who look like the people in the community they serve, but also have understanding and appreciation of the culture that they're serving in. That produces a better outcome. Another issue would be, we talk about education, we're talking about crime. Just how do, when you talked about before, how to guarantee a better inclusiveness when you have wealth creation and economic progress. Traditionally, in urban centers, you have significant economic investments and growth in that area, but it doesn't benefit everybody across the board. So there are groups of people who have traditionally just been left out. So we're connecting in that group and saying that we're encouraging economic growth economic prosperity, investment, and development, but we want to ensure that it's inclusive and has a more equitable outcome in terms of who benefits from it. So you set in place programs and initiatives to help do that. And then the final thing is you know, in every urban centers you have neighborhoods that are doing well, neighborhoods that are trending, and then you have neighborhoods that are just stressed neighborhood. They're under stress, distress. And in those neighborhoods, we've developed economic development and investment tools so that the private sector would take a risk there where it would normally not do it. And to have the market take over rather than it being just a perpetual subsidy by government. And that's how we attempted to rebuild our most distressed neighborhoods.
What are some highlights of your career in local politics?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I try not to look at it that way because I'm not finished. If I start thinking about legacy, then I'm already a short-timer. And when you're a short-timer, you think differently and you make different kind of decisions. So I try to stay focused on my job and doing what I do. And then when I'm no longer mayor, that's a better question for me than I can tell you about, you know, like people ask me what is my greatest success, what is my failure and all this other kind of stuff. And I tell them I don't have that luxury. I don't have the luxury of celebrating success or bemoaning failure. You know, that's a luxury because that's over it. I got to move on. And then so I just think about what I have to do. I stay focused, stay on my game, and keep moving in that direction. Then when I'm no longer mayor, then you and I are going to talk again, and you ask me that question.
What should presidential candidates know about the city of Cleveland?
They already have a good feel that that Cleveland is important in terms of Cuyahoga County, since Cleveland is a Democratic city. Cuyahoga County is a Democratic county, and that the carrying of Cleveland in the county in a large number in terms of Democratic vote really helps make up the Republican side of the state. And anybody who wins the state of Ohio wins very heavily in Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, not just in terms of the margin of victory, but in the number of votes. And what happens is, as other votes come in from the more rural and ex-urban kind of areas that tend to be more Republican, that margin of victory here, they start whittling away at it. So the bigger that margin of victory and a larger number of people who actually voted, the more likely it would be for a Democrat to win Ohio, which is one of the key swing states in the presidential election.
How has Cleveland fought the Lake Erie algae bloom?
We don't have it in the same magnitude as where you are, Sandusky, Toledo, because the lake is more shallow over there and you have more of a rural economy, and this algae bloom is the result of the runoff of fertilizer from agricultural activity, fertilizer and things like that, and it gets into the ground and eventually winds up into the lake. Where the shallow over there on the western basin where you are, is the lake is shallower, and you have this huge agricultural industry, and so you have all this stuff feeding the algae. And then because of the sun and the shallowness and the fertilizer, you have more of a problem. On this side of Lake Erie is deeper. It's a deeper lake, and we have urban activity. So our issue is not fertilizer. Our issue may be pollutants that go in the water, and that doesn't necessarily affect algae. Or, algae is still a problem, but it's less a problem here. Our water treatment facility, we have about 450 or 60,000 accounts in our water system. So we're not just Cleveland, we're the greater Cleveland. And our crib, where the intakes are 4 or 5 miles out. And they're probably at least 100 feet or more deep where they're sucking the water in. Whereas if you go in the western basin, you might be 50 feet, 30 feet. It's much shallower. It's a whole different ecological system, the runoff. So we don't have as big a problem, even though it is a problem, but it's manageable for us.
What are some tips you have from other mayors in other cities, like in Ohio, like Toledo, possibly Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton?
I don't give mayors tips. I don't believe I should be that presumptuous or arrogant to think that I know better than them. I don't sit in their seat. I don't have to deal with what they have to deal with. We just do our stuff, and people ask us our advice, we give it to them, and then sometimes we ask other people advice. But I don't do that.
What are some programs in Cleveland that people should get involved in?
I believe whatever's going on in their neighborhood, the primary and essential thrust of any democracy, or as we have it in America, is for involvement at the grassroots level, and to impact what goes on in your own street. That's key, because that's how you build communities. Neighborhoods are just a geographical boundary. Communities is how people come together and they do things, right? So that environment should be in a community. So if that community says crime is in youth and youth development, or they might say is career or commercial development, or career and jobs, whatever that community says, depending on what's happening to that community, then that's the important thing, and that community has to bring those grievances to government for government to be able to help address it. And government can never solve it, but government is a key component of the solution. It always has to be a complete community effort in terms of private sector, public sector, philanthropic community.
What are some things to do in Cleveland?
Oh, it all depends what you like. We're one of the few, I don't know any other city that has 3 major league sports teams, football, basketball, and baseball in walking distance, and with no parking, very little parking. You go to a game in Cleveland, they might, I think, where the Indians and the Cavaliers play, there's a garage. Where the Browns play, there's a little place where you might be able to, that they lease from the Port Authority to park cars of their season ticket holders, the loge holders on game day, but they had to lease that. You just had to find a place to park. So a lot of people come here, they take public transportation, and they come and they walk to the different games. That allows for the restaurants and the hotels, because they might spend the night and things like that. So there you can go to a game, you can go to a restaurant, you can go to entertainment. We have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum. They even have a casino here. It's right in the middle of downtown. Very little parking. It's not like you go out to traditional casinos where you have just a building with parking everywhere. Right? It's not like that. So it creates more of a walking environment. But there are a lot of things to do. You go out on summertime like this, you go out there, you see boats out on the lake. Sometimes people skiing or sailboating, that kind of stuff. We just had the tall ships come in. I think they go down to Toledo too, do they?
I'm not sure.
The tall ship is, they just left here about a week or so ago, and they travel the Great Lakes. These are the tall ships that were the ships of commerce way back in the day before they had cars and railroads and things like that. And people traveled on water and commerce flowed on water. And they had these ships that were accommodating that.
What are some future investments for the city of Cleveland?
Future will be in, I believe, in innovation and technology in order for us to be competitive. Any urban center that wants to be competitive in the future has to have technology and innovation as part of what it does, and has to invest in that infrastructure. But that's not the goal. Is only a tool. Is a necessary tool in order to be competitive. So I see us in the private sector as well as the public sector investing in innovation, different innovative kind of ways of doing things, and technology. Give you an example. We're changing out all of our street lights to LED lights. It's over 60-something thousand street lights. And we're changing them all over to LEDs. So it'd be brighter and less electricity used. So that's innovation. That's use of that technology to provide for a better environment, better public safety, those kinds of things. So when people make choices of where they want to live, work, play, and do business, they look at those things. So there's a group that is talking about this blockchain stuff. I don't completely understand it, but that's the thing of the future, I guess, along with 5G. And so they're looking at setting up a system and a co-locating of entrepreneurs that would be able to take advantage of all this stuff that floats around in the air, that they can access and get information and make decisions. Just like yourself, what is the expense of you being on the air? Very minimal compared to what it would have been before the technology and the social media that we have today, right? But before, maybe people just couldn't afford to be on the air because they couldn't afford a radio station. Now, or TV station, you got your own TV program going on. But it's very inexpensive. So you can do those kind of things. So you have to invest, and that's where how young people learn, that's how they retain, and that's how they communicate.
What is the average cost of living for the city of Cleveland?
I don't know, but it is very inexpensive compared to major markets like Chicago or Boston or New York. You can get something here twice the size of what you get in New York or Boston or Chicago, and for the same amount of money.
What is your favorite?
Living, and then for going out. It's our parking. I think our special event parking might be $20. I mean, that's $20. That's a special event, which means they jack the prices up, right? You pay $25 just to go to work in some places, some markets, right? We're here, like in City Hall, if you parked all day, it's $10. I don't know any other place you can go park for $10 in a major urban center. So the cost of doing business and stuff, one of the costs that we are compatible with that causes some angst is the construction side. The building trades and the cost of construction is equivalent to all around, but our ability to demand prices in terms of rental or lease is much lower than other markets, so it requires more underwriting by government in order to make those developments work. So that's one where Cleveland is not less expensive, in some cases more expensive.
What's your favorite part of Cleveland?
Home. When I go home, that's my favorite. I'll be just as happy as I can be.
What's the average day like for the mayor of Cleveland?
It depends. It's never the same. There are some routine things I do, like cabinet on Wednesday at 8:30, or chiefs meetings with the police chief and safety people on Thursdays at 1. On Friday at 8:30, I meet with my cluster chiefs. There's routine, but other than that, it could be anything. Like today, went over to the youth summit and back to school fair. I'm having a conversation with you. In about another hour or so, I will be at one of our fire stations where they're having their ice cream social, and they're having hamburgers and hot dogs and ice cream and stuff. That's today. I usually try to keep my weekends free, but it didn't happen this weekend. I got a parade tomorrow, the Puerto Rican Day Parade. That's just one thing, but I could go from morning to evening, one thing after another, ranging from economic development, public safety, public works, general discussion, kids coming in, all those kind of things. It varies from day to day.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr.
Well,
Mayor.
thank you. I appreciate you.
Now you can find out